Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Mendelson. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be here, to be with so many law school students, and your questions and your insights are tremendous. And to be speaking at this time is actually very, very comfortable for me. How many of you have ever had the privilege of speaking during lunchtime? Raise your hand. Okay, so everybody's just back from lunch. Okay, you're processing that chicken salad. The malaise takes over. So I completely understand it. Let me tell you a little bit about the origin of that. I know most of you are going to say no to this, but does anybody know Mr. Mo Lesko? Raise your hand if you. Okay. Mo Lesko is an associate dean at the Judge Advocate General Legal Center and School. For those of you who may not be familiar with it, it is our home, the Army's legal home on the UVA campus right next to the law school. It's where we go for our education. Mo is a retired JAG. He was a colonel and then went on to work at the JAG school. I've known him for years, and about when I became a senior lieutenant colonel through colonel, Mo would call me up and say, can you come talk to this group or this team? Absolutely, every time. Who does not want to go to Charlottesville and talk? Every time they ask, am I going? I'm going every time. And every time I'm scheduled to speak after lunch. Periodically, it's just before lunch, but after lunch. When I got promoted, of course, more invitations came down, and every time I went, and the pattern and the trend remained. So one day I said, XO, give me the list of all the classes I've taught and the times. I'm going to just approach Mo. He's reasonable. So I went to Mo. I sat down with him. I pitched my case. Mo was a stoic man, a man of few words. And he looked at me and he said, let me think about it. A few months go by. My executive officer walks in my office and says, sir, they called. Will you speak at the paralegal course? And I, of course, said, yes. And I looked at her and she said, I don't have the schedule yet. I don't know what time. Few weeks pass. She walks in. She says, sir, I got the schedule for the paralegal course. Good news. 1, you are not speaking after lunch. Yes. Better news. You're not speaking before lunch. Yes. Sir, you're speaking at lunch. Sir, it gets even worse. You're speaking on Friday. You're the last class. You're the only thing between them and home. What is the lesson? Don't mess with Mo. I mean, look at this. How did he have his fingerprints here, sir? Who was influenced by him? Again, this is the double whammy. I'm starting during lunch, and I'm going to finish after lunch. So, anyway, don't mess with Mo. Okay, this is my very, very long title. I think Lori Blank may be the only person who has a longer title than I. The person who sits in this position is affectionately known as the MLO. I sit in the Pentagon and I oversee the policy divisions and the people that drive that policy, the hardworking majors and lieutenant colonels. What do I oversee? Administrative law, military justice, contract and fiscal law, the appeals division for court martials, and national security law, which is what brings me here. And what do? I work with my team to try to see what the trends are in the future and make sure that my teammates, my judge advocates, are moving in the right direction and ensuring that we're teaching them the right thing, whether it's on the platform, we're exercising the right things, and making sure we are set for the future. When I spoke to General Dunlap, he said, hey, can you talk about how you're planning for the future? So we have working groups and teams that get together continuously. And once we sort of develop plans, I figured let's go to the expert to determine if we're on the right path. So I went to ChatGPT. And what we did is we figured out a query, visualize the support, right? Who's used ChatGPT? I'm sure all of you. And okay, you actually admitted to it, okay? Okay. So, thank you. So I figured, much like previously when I've used it, you get a wonderful treatise, wonderful information. Well, I didn't quite get that. It actually literally this is what I got back. It was too literal. So, of course, we go back to the drawing board. Me and my team, we plug this in. And what do I get? What do I get back? Well, it says, come talk to me. Okay. So what's the point? It's hard. Thank you. It's hard, isn't it, Joe? It's hard to predict the future. It's hard to plan for the future. And there have been many, many defense officials who've said sort of the essence of the quote I saw, and it's, every time I try to predict the future, I have a perfect record. I'm always wrong. And why? There are so many variables to consider, so many changes in the landscape and technology. But when I wear this, I also always remember that the enemy has a vote. Just because I think they're going to do something some way, they may do it completely differently. So, when you're planning, when we're planning into the future, you got to know, at least I've asked my team, as hard as it is, what are our non-negotiables? What are the things that endure throughout time? Number one is that the commanders and our ability to advise them or the senior leaders is paramount. Our ability to be with them in person so they have access to us and we have access to them. And that client, that attorney-client relationship, that commander-judge-advocate relationship, it is special. I know we have some retired folks here, and you are welcome to answer this question. How many of you have called your boss because you had an urgent issue or went to their office and you were either let in immediately or shortly thereafter? Raise your hand. Chad Highfield, I'm not seeing a hand out of you. Is that a no? We have access that other sections do not. Why? Because over time, you have done an incredible job of earning their trust. You not only have given legal advice, but prudential advice in which they have relished. That relationship has been through difficult times, long exercises, tough work back in the office or deployed, and there's nothing more bonding than dealing with a difficult issue with your leaders when you're downrange. That relationship is sacrosanct, and we need to preserve it. Understanding why we need to preserve it, to better understand it, I want to just take you back a little bit and explain how we got to this point, because that also informs how we move forward. in World War II at a Corps headquarters, that helps to advise between 20 and 50,000 troops. In World War II, there were roughly 5 judge advocates. 5. They were not welcome in the planning of operations. Not only were they not welcome, they were quickly shown to the door with expletives. Why do I need a judge advocate in planning operations? Were there one-offs? Absolutely. This trend continued through Korea up through Vietnam. They did unbelievable work. Court-martials, they assisted with the Cheney operations, POWs, but they were not welcome in the operations arena. Until one seminal moment. Post-Vietnam, many allegations began to surface concerning the conduct of our soldiers, how they comported themselves on the battlefield, and it galvanized in the Peer report, General Peer, outlining in his report all of the tragic deaths that occurred at My Lai. Depending on the number, 500, hundreds of innocent children, women, and unarmed males killed. It was clear to everybody that our soldiers truly were not embracing the law of armed conflict. Absolutely clear. So what do you do about it? How do you effectuate change at that scale? A colonel who worked in the National Security Law Department in the Pentagon, which I oversee, brought forward an idea to then TJAG General Prue. TJAG, the Judge Advocate General, the 3-star in charge of my service, my branch. The concept was to institutionalize from the top down. Am I not being heard?
So we'll use that one. Is that okay?
Do I have to start over?
Let me see. No, I don't think so.
Should I start at the lunch thing, or should I?
I know, right? I think your lapel is. That's fine. Let me turn it off. I'm sorry, everyone.
This is planned. This was part of it.
This is. Is that better?
Is that better?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Could you not hear me in the back? Could you hear me?
Recording.
Okay.
And this for your overflow room.
It's for my mom. I told my mom I was coming to speak at Duke. She didn't believe me. Really? So I asked General Dunlap if pictures were going to be taken, and he goes, yes. I said, what about the video? My mom will have a watch party with Sadie and Sarah. But anyway, I'm way off course now. Where was I? Okay. So General Prue came forward with the idea of an institutional-wide law of war program. It was an idea in which judge advocates would be affirmatively inserted into review of operations, planning of operations, and the teaching of the law of armed conflict, enterprise-wide. In 1974, the DOD agreed that this was the right way forward. And in November, almost 50 years ago, the DOD Law of War program was put in place. Now, just because you have a piece of paper and you're waving it around, does that mean they're going to let you in the room? No. Between 1974 onward, the judge advocates who came before me, they stood outside the building screaming with megaphones, let me in. They finally, they let him in the doorway of the building, and they're screaming, let me be part of the discussion. Look at my piece of paper. eventually in time, through advocacy and persuasion, they got outside the door. And once they got outside the door, we kicked it down. And once we kicked it down and got in the room, we got at the table. And once we got at the table, and over time, through Grenada, in Panama, we were able to establish that we are trustworthy partners. We've got a lot more than just the law to bring to the discussion. We are critical thinkers, and you get all that for free. You get all that for free. And that's what the commanders loved about us the most, and which opened the door to Desert Storm, Desert Shield, where it really began to come together. Remember the 5 to 7 judge advocates at a corps in World War II? Think 40 to 60. At divisions, not much less. Judge advocates at all echelons, advising on operations, targeting, assisting with intelligence. I mean, we were everywhere, and we showed what we can do. So much so that General Schwarzkopf, he loved his SJA, loved them. The rules of engagement needed to be drafted. The G3, the operations general officer or colonel, they are the ones who generate the rules of engagement. General Schwarzkopf said, I want my SJA to draft them. We've established our value through the persistent conflict of Afghanistan and Iraq through today. And because of all the people that came before us, this is how we're able to have the relationship that we have with our leaders. It took 50 years. So that is why it's my priority. Because think of the reason why we got to the point of necessitating judge advocates and how long it took us to be a part of the system. Do bad things still happen in combat? Absolutely. Do our soldiers and service members do wrong? Absolutely. Has our insertion into the processes mitigated a number of bad things? I would like to say yes. But I'm a proud member of the JAG Corps. But I think we have made a difference. Okay. So, number one, preserving the attorney-client, the SJA commander relationship in person. Number two priority, ensuring that my teammates understand the suite of law and policy that they need to know to be effective. And us being nimble enough as an institution to continually check this and update it. We need to be our best in this area when we are needed most. Those are the two priorities, particularly in this. My teammates need to be exercised, trained, educated, so when they are asked difficult questions, they are able to run it through their brain and have good, thoughtful answers. And it's not citing statutes and paragraph numbers. It's being able to convey it in a manner in which commanders understand, non-lawyers understand. And advising throughout the process. We are everywhere now. Commanders have seen our value. We are at all phases of the operations plan. You will find judge advocates in the intelligence cell, right, Ryan? You'll find them in the targeting cell. you'll find them in the planning cell, and you'll find them standing next to commanders. These are things we need to preserve. The command relationship and making sure we know our craft. So now that we understand what the priorities are, how do we look out and see the environment that we're going to be operating in? So Ukraine and Russia has been a bounty of lessons learned. This is General Kutuzov. He was killed in his command post with many other of his leaders, many other of his planners, many others of his staff. This was done by the Ukrainians who used low-tech weaponry, UAVs, loaded with bombs, and took out the command post. In short, they have been targeting command posts, and they have been very successful. Now, depending what you read, depending that what can be verified, they've hit up to 30 command posts over time with varying degrees of success, taking off the head. And they've done it at a distance without much loss. Now, thankfully, we don't like command posts. The U.S. Army doesn't operate that way. No, we do. We like big command posts. We like massive command posts. And how do you get hit in a command post? Your signature, your noise, your computers, your comms. They made it easy for the Ukrainians. The lesson is, how do we move on from this? Downrange, when I was in Baghdad 2006, we had 60 to 70 lawyers in one area. And we were just a big gaggle. Again, that was just a minor representation of everybody else. So look at this emissions footprint of a brigade combat team that was on an exercise. The green and the red are our logistics and our commanders and our leaders. This looks like a Bon Jovi concert. Any Jersey people here? You got that one? Okay, anybody not? Okay, thank you. Thank you. A Taylor Swift concert. Okay, thank you. Okay. If you can be seen, you will pay the price. So we know what the Ukrainians did, and so we're trying to learn lessons from that. So what did the Russians do, and what can we learn from them? I don't really want to get into this one. That at the front they have this, I'll call vintage setup at the front. And what they essentially did is they stretched the battlefield. They put a lot of their leaders all the way in the reserve area to protect them. They've moved disposable infantry to the front. But what they have done is they've essentially been able to validate three concepts with command posts as we're moving forward. Number one, we need to break them down. Smaller footprint nodes. They need to be mobile. Moving quickly in and out around the battlefield and dispersed. We have been exercising this at Joint Base Lewis McChord, breaking up the command post, putting our leaders and commanders in smaller groupings, moving them quickly around the battlefield, coming together when need be for operations and for effects, and then moving out. We've been lowering our communications so not to be heard, and ensuring that our I'll just say our footprint, our electronic footprint is minimized. So that's great. We understand what our commanders are going to be doing. So how do I provide legal services in that environment? Like I said, our commanders in the previous persistent conflict were at big command posts. We were a part of big staff offices. I had an administrative law section in 2006. I had 7 people working for me. Okay? In our operations section, they had like a football team of attorneys next to me. But what that did, obviously, was make it easy to solve problems. We had everybody from a captain to a colonel, a private to a SAR major. If we had a hard problem, as a group, we could answer it. But now we need to, again, priority number 1, be where our leaders are. Be in these nodes. Okay, number 1, it begs the question, how many nodes are needed? Number 2, do I have enough judge advocates to fill all of those nodes? Let's assume yes. Does that judge advocate, have I prepared them for the realm of legal issues that they're going to have to advise on? Let's assume I don't have enough people. So I have nodes that are uncovered. I've not satisfied priority 1. And again, we don't want to go back to what happened before 1974. And we know those nodes are going to follow what our tradition is. The initiative. Going to the fight. That is our near-term issue. How do I provide well-trained judge advocates to fill these nodes, to be with our leaders, and do it effectively, and not necessarily be able to talk to the rear? Wish me luck. But we're aware of the problem. And what makes it even more complicated is we may be doing it without GPS and without all of our systems, which we love. Okay, that's the near future. What about if I look out a little further? What if there was a way that I could harness all of the sensors that are in theater? I could aggregate them. Maybe utilize a system with the cool name of Titan. This sensor system, it pulls in data, and then it feeds into another we love our names. We just love it. Called Prometheus. Yeah, it's true. Can't make this up. Prometheus takes all that data, culls through it, and based on algorithms, prioritizes the targets that we've asked it to. It takes those targets and feeds it to another system. You ready? Firestorm. Firestorm is able to assess the available weaponry in a theater. Whether it's on the sea, it's on the land, or in the air. What if there was such a system? We might call it Project Convergence. And Firestorm, once it receives that data, can say, you can hit your priority target from that plane. Just push here. Your number 2 priority target, this naval vessel, you could tap into that weaponry, and that can hit it. What if you can have that in seconds? It's here. We are in many iterations, but every time we get better and better at it, we're even introducing our partners, our allies, pulling them in. That sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Okay, so what about the staff that works so diligently to do that? Is this a trust but verify thing where the staff is working parallel to ensure the targets, it is what it thinks it is? And maybe it does become, maybe it was right. Maybe ChatGPT was right. Maybe it does look like this. And then, what about this thought process? This is the staff process. Oh, remember, we have judge advocates in every one of these cells to ensure the law of armed conflict is complied with. Does it all go away? Can we bake in the law of armed conflict principles in a manner that we believe will provide accurate answers? Can we bake that into the system, into the software, into the algorithm? Can we do it enough where we trust it? These are the things we're working on as we move forward. These are the things we're thinking about. We do this at our JAG school. We do this in our OPTs. We come here and we listen to tremendous speakers so we could prepare for that future. And we're nimble enough, we're flexible enough, and we know we need to be in order to properly care for our commanders, our leaders, because there's no better client that you can have than a commander, name your service, who only wants to do the right thing for the right reason in the right way. And that's why I serve. Okay. I believe I have some time, a few minutes.
We have time for some.
Okay. So, I'm happy to take any questions.
Diane, what's your question?
I wouldn't know where to begin. Sure.
Did you like the
I'm being
pictures?
cold called. I'm in
How were
law
the
school. I should be
pictures?
used to this. They were excellent. I was mesmerized. Seriously. I'm really interested in the Titan, I don't know how to pronounce the second word that you said, Firestorm Convergence Project. Yeah. Can you walk me through a little bit more of speaking of questions that lawyers might be asking along the way, especially with like data security and...
So at the Army Futures Command, they are at the forefront of this technology. They are working with the coders. They are part of the advisors of Project Convergence and asking these difficult questions. Is this, running through scenarios to ensure compliance with the law of armed conflict? This is it's aspirational at this point of baking it in the system, but what we are asking is the things that you would normally ask. Is this a military object? What about proportionality? When it reaches the end, how do we know that this level of thoughtfulness that we go through is valid?
just to
Sir.
footnote that, we were down at Futures Command last May, and they are doing some really interesting things, and they're collaborating with UT Law School, and lots of really interesting, not such a great place to live, but my view.
And off that, sir, what an incredible time to be serving. I mean, amazing time. You could be at the forefront of all of this. And so I invite you to look at any service as an opportunity to start and dive into some of these really, really unique things.
Brian, and then we'll go to Bryce.
Hey, Brian.
Thank you very much for those really that insightful look into the future. Brian Cox, still Cornell Law School, still retired U.S. Army JAG. So I have a question for you, but I want to make it just a really quick personal observation about my experience in Afghanistan that I lived what you're talking about, and it's really fascinating. My job as an operational...
Can everybody hear him? Okay, please go ahead, Brian.
My job as an operational lawyer when I was in Afghanistan was on the operations center, like on the floor of the JOC. So that was where my desk was. So there are JAGs, and every JAG here I'm sure has a similar experience. We are living that, and it's fascinating to see where we are now compared to where we used to be, and it's just really great.
Hey, Brian, I just want to ask, my name tag said speaker, but yours says VIP. Sir, how do is it like points? Like every time you come, you get like certain points?
You come,
Okay.
come to Lynn's often enough, I guess. So my question is, you focused a lot on preparing our JAGs for kind of decentralized operations. What challenges do you see, and is it possible to train our commanders, our clients, to be so proficient in LOAC knowledge that they don't even need us directly in operations?
Thank you. So great question. What I didn't talk about is the amount and level of training we're giving our commanders. And so thank you for that. We train our commanders on the law of armed conflict from the time they're captains through general, and we keep refreshing their training along the way. There is the pre-command course, which I teach at. It's a 2-day course for incoming battalion commanders where they get multiple blocks on national security law of armed conflict. They also have the opportunity to go to the JAG school for the solo course, the senior officer legal orientation, in which not only do they get an opportunity to learn about military justice, administrative law, but they're even provided more training, more education on the law of armed conflict. They come back as brigade commanders for solo. They're now required to come back as battalion commanders and brigade commanders. Our general officers go to the GOLO course. We provide a tremendous amount of education. So if we are in that potential point where they don't have us, we hope we've given them enough reps and enough training where they could do it on their own. I wouldn't want that, but if that's what we come to, the hope is we've done the best we can. But thank you. I left that piece out. I appreciate that, Brian.
Dave, on this, one of the things that I found is. Thank you. One of the things I found, I was on one operation, and commander in the command post, he turned around and asked me a question in fighter pilot speak, which is not quite English, but. And he later told me that it was actually just a test.
Interesting.
And he said he would have fired me on the spot if I had said, A, I had to look it up because he expected to have that internalized, or B, that, I just didn't know the answer. How important is it for JAGs to know the doctrine, the weapons, the strategies, the mindset, that sort of thing?
Sir, I think it's incredibly important. So I'm a kid from Jersey. I had no prior military experience. Nobody around me, where I grew up in central Jersey, had served. And so I didn't know about the military. The only thing I knew about the military was from movies. But when I was in law school, I clerked at a big law firm, a small law firm, and I wasn't happy. And I wanted something bigger. I had played on athletic teams, and so I thought the military was where I might find that. And the short of it was I came in, and literally my first day, in uniform, I tucked in my blouse top because I didn't know anything different. I tucked it in. And so that's where I started. And to get to your question, sir, we would go on exercises, and I would be in my little cubby working the legal actions, and my SJA would say, go figure out what the tankers are doing. Go sit with the intel officers. And I'd be saying, what do I need to do that for? Why? And what I found was, one, it was awesome if you've never been to a tank range and a tank's going 40 miles an hour like a ballet dance, blowing up stuff. Anyone been to a tank range? I know you have. Oh, is it a cool, Zach? Is it awesome? Blowing up stuff, loud noise. And so what I found is they enjoyed me learning about their craft, and it made me a better attorney in advising them because I knew what they were talking about. So the short answer is, it is incredibly important that we get out from behind our desk, stop typing, stop emailing, stop texting, and go learn what they do because they're awesome. They're awesome.
Totally agree. I think that, and it's applicable. I totally agree with General Mendelson, and I think it's applicable no matter what your practice is. I think one error lawyers make these days is they don't learn enough about the client. They know the law, they know all kinds of law, but they have to, you'll never be wrong digging in and learning about the client. And it's critical, it's irreplaceable in this context.
100%, sir. You got to know your client.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, but that's the bad news. Good news is you're going to stay around for a little.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And please take advantage of his knowledge, his energy, his foresight, because this is somebody you can really learn. We're going to take a very brief 4-minute break, stretch. So, and then we're going to roll right into our next.